let's talk about the N word, right? And so I thought we'd start off by me reading some things that I found and just kind of reading through it, and then let's just talk about it, right? Because it's clear there's a debate going on. So the word nigger, let me be clear in this. The word nigger is an ethnic slur typically directed at black people. Okay. It is originated in the 18th century as an adaptation of the Spanish word negro, and a Latin derivative of Niger, which means black. So the first derogatory usage of the term nigger dates back to 1775. The implied racism of the word nigger has rendered its use taboo. Because the term is considered extremely offensive, it is often referred to as the euphemism, the N-word, right? In 2018, the head of the company of Netflix, Reed Hastings, he fired his chief communications officer for using the word twice during internal discussions about sensitive words. And explaining why he fired him, he said, the word's use in popular media like music and film have created some confusion as to whether or not there is ever a time when the use of the N-word is acceptable. For non-black people, the word should not be spoken, as there is almost no context in which it is appropriate or constructive, even when singing a song or reading a script. There is not a way to neutralize the emotion and history behind the word in any context. The use of the phrase N-word was created as a euphemism and the norm with the intention of providing a acceptable replacement and moving people away from using the specific word. When a person violates this norm, it creates resentment, intense frustrations, and great offense for many, right?
Beat down, basically.
However, yeah, a beat down, right? However, by many of us, it remains in use, right? Particularly the word nigga, N-I-G-G-A. We often react to the term differently depending on whether it's used by white speakers or black speakers. When non-black people use it, it is regularly understood as insensitive or insulting, but when we use it amongst ourselves, it is okay. Popularizing, what's that, Marie?
Term of endearment in some cases.
Term of endearment. Yes. Popularizing it through the use of rap and hip-hop music. Some of us would say we have reappropriated or reclaimed the use of the word. However, acceptance of other groups' usage of the word nigga is still debated. In many African-American neighborhoods, nigga is simply the most common term used to refer to any male of any race or ethnicity. Increasingly, the term has been applied to any person, male or female. Thus, nigga is evaluatively neutral in terms of its inherent meaning. It may express positive, neutral, or negative attitudes. The NAACP denounced the use both of nigga and nigger. Mixed race usage of nigga is still considered taboo. So if you are mixed race, it's considered taboo, particularly if the speaker is white. However, trends indicate the usage of the term in intergroup settings is increasing even amongst the white youth due to popularity of rap and hip hop. A 2018 survey found that while the majority of respondents agreed it was unacceptable for a non-black speaker to use nigger or its derivatives, opinions were nonetheless divided on whether it was acceptable for anyone to use the term in any context, with a small majority believing the term was simply offensive and thus should not be used in any context. And I know some individuals, specifically one I know right now here on our podcast, feels that way. So when we talk about reappropriation or reclamation, those opposed to reclamation of the terms have argued that such terms are irredeemable, forever connected to their derogatory meaning, and their usage will continue to hurt those who remember its original intent and even reinforce existing stigma. The supporters of reclamation argue in turn that many such words had non-derogatory meanings that are simply being restored, and that in either case, reclaiming such a word denies it to those who would want to use it to oppress others and represents a form of moral victory for the group that reclaimed it. So when the word is used by African Americans in a positive way, it becomes confusing to other races. This poses more problems. Other races may think it's okay to use the word in the same manner, which would most likely offend us. So should we refrain from using it casually and lightheartedly, right? I want to get your perspectives on. Let me first ask this question. And we're going to go left to right, Marina Comedy, Old Soul, Baller, Preacher, Big Doc, or right to left, however it shows up. Do you think the use of the word nigga is okay?
You talking with me?
Yeah, let's start with you.
Personally, I hate the word. I think I'm old school. Like, I'm just because I am 60 years old. I've never liked the word. I don't even like people call me that. It's always made me uncomfortable. What I'm realizing though, what is more offensive to me is when I hear white people calling each other nigger. When I hear young white boys or young Hispanics calling each other nigger. I mean, that is probably the most upsetting thing that I hear, and I had to catch myself from saying something to them, you know what I mean? Because I'm already offended hearing the word. They ain't saying it to me, they saying it to each other. Like, it has become the cool word now. And they have no idea of the pain that it instills in people like me and what it does to me. So no, I'm not a supporter of either one of the words, honestly. And this is interesting. I'm gonna bring this because you hit a point. When I go and do black clubs, the comedians who focus on the black clubs, right, who work that, I think every fourth word is nigga. And you can't even do your comedy in that club unless you throw some niggas in there. You know what I mean? It's almost as if you corny if you don't say nigga. You know what I mean? That nigga this, that nigga that. I'm like, man, it's a weird space to be in right now.
Yep.
Our age. And to hear it thrown around so casually. And I mean, it's casual. Like for me, you heard that word, that was fighting. And now these young white kids, these young Hispanics, and we are allowing it to happen because they feel they spent their money on a CD or a record. It gives them the right to use the language. So no, I don't agree with it.
Right. Appreciate you sharing that, man. Old Soul, do you?
Yes, sir. I despise the word. I despise the word. There's no, for me, there's no love. There's no reclaiming to me at all. You cannot come into my house, in my household, and use that word. I'm a descendant of a king and queens, okay? They didn't have to use that word. I refuse to use that word. That word is ignorance to me. That word is hate to me. People died over that word. I'm more than that word. I don't care how you spin it in a positive way, whatever the definition. And I know there's definitions and people reclaim it and say we're going to use that out of love. That's just lazy. I can call you what our podcast is. I can call you my brother. I can call you my homie, my boy. There's a litany of words if I sit down and think about it and don't dumb myself down to this quote unquote culture to use a word born out of ignorance and hate. I'm bigger than that word.
I don't mean to cut you off. I want to know at what point in time in your life that was prevalent, meaning what age were you when you felt the way that you're telling us?
I'm gonna tell you, I'm glad you brought that up. It was brought up to me by somebody white when I was 11, and I was playing baseball. It was the first time I ever heard the word. I was playing baseball, and we're all friends and stuff like that, and I was friends with the family I was playing, and I tagged the guy out. He got up, wiped himself off. He looked at me. That was the first thing came out of his mouth. That was the first time in my life that I've ever felt like that I didn't feel like a human being. All right, this is a sporting event, right? So I'm standing there holding the ball trying to figure out, well, damn. I thought I just stood there. So when we walked away, when the game was over, of course we lived in the projects at the time, his backyard was facing my front. I knocked on the door to my front. He was getting ready to hop over the fence. And I turned around and said, "What did you call me?" And he turned around and said, "You know what I called you. I called you the N-word." My mom opened up the door. I dropped my bat and I commenced to whip his ass. Now, his parents came out the back And when they found out from his brothers what he called me, the first thing they did was, Edwin beat his ass, because they didn't condone that word. So I'm glad you asked that, Baller. Thanks for bringing that up. But that was somebody of the opposite color using it. All I know is the word itself to me didn't have a color, it just meant hate. So from that point on, I despise the word. I just don't use the word in any culture, any language, any walk of my life.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Baller. So the question is, are you okay with the word? You know, use of the word, etc.
That's why I asked, you know, the old soda kind of question, because there was a time when I was okay with it, because me being half black and half white, you know, I got both ends of that, you know. Sometimes I wasn't black enough, sometimes I wasn't white enough, but I've always considered myself, you know, only black. So when I was called, now mind you, at a younger age, I'm pale, blonde hair, light brown hair, and everything, you know. So it was more or less like I got called nigga. And I was with a couple of my friends. We were on our bikes, and it was other side of the road was predominantly white. So these other kids called us niggers, throwing stones at the same time. And that's when that hatred, that rage, that, you know, I'm like, who are you calling me a nigger? Da, 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 because I knew I wasn't a nigger.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and as I grew older, you know, around certain guys I grew up with, some of these guys on this podcast with me, we would say that to each other. But it wasn't in a derogatory way. I never took it that way because of who I was surrounded by, because we all felt a kinship to one another. So as I grew older and as clearly times changed and, you know, that word became harsh, that word became light. It was like a back and forth. Sometimes it was a mental battle with myself, you know, but again, there are times when I accepted it. Even to this day, to be honest with everybody on this podcast and anybody that's listening, I accept it because, again, it depends on who I'm around. Because I could be sitting 2 or 3 of my guys, we can have some drinks or whatever, and be like, yo, you remember what I said to that nigga the other day? Man, that nigga was upstairs in the room hitting that joint. Or, yo, that nigga outside, he got a new car. And to me, in that conversation, in that context, I didn't take as negativity.
Right.
You know, but then if it, like, you know, like you were saying, Fat Checker, when it comes outside of my race, that's when negativity, bling, 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 light bulbs and all that stuff will start flaring off. You know, and again, fair complected man, I still was called nigger, you know, even to where playing cross seas, playing different cities and states, you know, when the majority of those fans were white. And if I'm killing a team or whatever, I got called a nigga a couple times, you know, and I'm like, it just, to me, sometimes it was shocking because of where we were. And at this point in time, I'm older, and at this point in time, I'm bigger and I'm ready to fight.
Yeah. So again, but go back real quick. Did you say whether or not you currently condone? I think you did. You said it just depends on the situation. All right.
To me, it depends on the situation. Sometimes, again, I will condone it in retrospect of our conversation that I may be having.
Yeah.
If it's outside of my race, say it again.
Watch this. On this is what's weird about the word. So you playing basketball, right? You got a white kid sitting there and a black kid, and you killing it. And the black kid said, that nigga killing it, right?
Right.
And then the white kid said, that nigga is killing it. Look at the difference. Right. Look at the difference right there. The exact same words. You doing the exact same thing. That's why the word is so that it's just a mess now.
Right.
Because of the way it is you doing the exact same thing. And two, he ain't calling you negatively, the white boy ain't. He said that nigga is killing it. All hell breaks loose at that point.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point.
You see what I'm saying? That's what makes that word so.
Marine, I definitely agree with you. You know what I'm saying? But again, as like I said, the age I'm in now is like, I'm not gonna say I don't condone it or I do condone it.
Right.
I actually kind of accept it, you know, and I understand
because of the culture.
Your example.
It's the culture, yeah.
Yeah, I understand your example, you know, but I'm hearing from my left ear the black young fella. I'm hearing in my right ear the white young fella. Right. And my right ear,
you snapped.
Yes.
How crazy is that?
Yeah.
Doc. So the question is the N-word, do you use it? Do you not use it? Like, what are your thoughts around the people using it?
I since I've been around, especially with Old Soul, like I try to refrain from using it. I do use it sometimes, even like what Barry was, the baller was saying, how you're amongst certain people, you use it and you reframe it in that type of way. It really depends, like who you're hanging around with, who your company is that you're going to use it. I don't condone it at all. I do not like the word. The word shouldn't even be inside the dictionary.
Yeah, hey, Doc, you breaking up? Hey, Doc, sorry.
I found out. I searched on it, and I found out that it's from the 1800s.
Yeah. You breaking up, Doc. Your camera's actually breaking up, bro. So let me go to Preacher.
You know what? I don't know what happened too, because I was off the camera for a second too. You guys want to cut me off, or?
Yeah, you freezing up, bro. So it seems like it's cutting up a lot. Preacher, why don't you go ahead on?
Well, I respect everybody's opinion on why they choose to use it, why they don't choose to use it. I don't care. I like it. I'm going to use it. All right. Let me just say that right now. Now, I grew up, as I've told you on many of these podcasts, I grew up in an all-white neighborhood, being called the nigger, being called that word, standing on the corner waiting for the bus. Yes, ready to fight, the whole 9 yards. But here I am. I'm 52 years old now, okay? A word is not going to define who I am. A word is not going to define who I am, point blank, period, right? So if every person in the world stopped using the N-word, right, and we just, we took the sting out of the word, right? The word stopped being used by everyone, right? If that actually happened, and then, 10 years, nobody actually heard the N-word, and then all of a sudden somebody called you N-word, oh my God, you're going to go to jail to try to beat they behind. For me, the word means nothing. It has no meaning. The history of the word, I get it, right? Nigger, ER, right? But every comedian that we talked about has used the word. Everybody in this podcast has used the word. Not one person on this podcast can say they've never used the word. Whether or not you can't say that in your entire life you've never used the word.
I've never used it.
Okay, so then you are the exception to the rule, and I applaud you for that. But you and I have been on the phone many times, and absolutely. I know you don't like the word, and I've used the word 1,000 times. And I want to compare this word to one other word that I like to take it a little different. So the word Christian, right? Everyone is classified as a Christian, yes? Oh, I'm a Christian, right? But most of you don't know that the word Christian was used as a derogatory word to describe people of faith. That don't make you stop using the word Christian. People still call themselves Christians, even though God wanted you to be a saint, right? And if get with me, I'll send you the link. You can do the research on the word Christian, just like you did the research on the N-word, right? So you take away the power of the use of the word. I have not been called a nigger by a white person in God knows how long. And if I did, guess what I'm gonna call him back? Cracker. I'm gonna hit him with some Sanford and Son stops type stuff. So I'm not worrying about what you say to me. I'm not gonna pull my gun out and shoot you because you called me the N-word. Because you know what? I'm not a nigger. I'm not a nigger, ER. And to me, the word nigger is like using the word bro. That's just my opinion.
Interesting you say.
I respect that, preacher. I mean, that's definitely an opinion. I think for me, as old soul, as a young man, I was affected by it. You know, I don't think growing up, I don't remember us using that word, to be honest with you. I don't remember. I remember playing baseball, and we had some guy got jumped, and he was explaining to them who jumped him, and he said, 25 niggas jumped me. And I remembered that. And I was like, wow, you know what I mean? And they let him say that. And I think that's when it really hit me how derogatory it was at that point. I think I was 10 years old, 10 or 11, like you were. You know what I mean? And that's when it hit me. Now, I like I say, I'm like you, every now and then, but I don't use it on a regular basis. I don't try to use it. And I even want to get better at what I'm now, even in comedy. Because every now and then you slip into whatever room you in, you know what I mean? But I don't have to use it. And I got to get better at that. You know what I mean? I really do.
Yeah. Hey, let me say that, first of all, preacher, thank you for sharing. I want to.
Yeah, it's good perspective.
Thank you for sharing that. I've definitely used the word nigga, right? I've also seen it. I've been called the word nigger. And I've used the word in the context of what Baller said, right? And a way of love, friend. Yo, what's up, nigga? What's going on? How you doing, man? Nigga, get over here. Give me a hug, right? In an endearing way. You know, one of the things that I face is how does my usage impact how someone feels about it, right? So to the point, Donald, where you're like, you know, look, I use it. I don't care what people think. I do care what people think if they don't like the word, right? Because I want to respect their space, right? And I think that, and so while I kind of, listen, I am not 100% left or 100% right. I'm kind of in the middle here because there are times when I still use the word, you know, what's up, nigga? Or I'll listen to it on the show, like comedians use it, and I'm laughing because I understand, you know, how it's used as a part of the culture. You know, my challenge is wanting to respect someone's space and how they use it. Excuse me, like if I use it, like for example, old souls, like, yo, you know, that word, it bothers me, and I mean, so I choose not to want to bother him. Granted, there's some other there's a lot of things, there's a lot of readings, old soul, that talks about like there's stress in the world, right? But the reality of it is, if you know yourself, then nothing externally should bother you as long as you know who you are internally, right? That's a whole other conversation.
Absolutely.
Right. With that said, though, I still want to respect your space, no matter what I say. To preacher's point, no matter, you know, if someone calls it a name, he's not bothered because he knows who he is as an individual, right? And I think we all need to get to that enlightenment space. I think the bigger challenge, though, I have with all of this is kind of the double standard, right? And it goes back to what you said earlier, Maureen, that, you know, one person's like, that nigga did a great job. Did you see him? The black guy says, and the white guy right next to him, like, yeah, that nigga did do a good job. And now we see it like, what the hell? Like, you need to be quiet. What, did you just say what I thought you said? And I say the double standard because it becomes a double standard because it becomes a double standard because the more we use it just so nonchalantly. People just assume that it's okay because they don't know. They're not quite educated at times. Like, you can't just assume that everybody knows that that word's a negative word when he's using endearment. Like a young child growing up might hear their friends, and that's just all they say around each other. And so they use that word. And so, you know, the challenge I have is like, how do we not have that? You know, I think the best way to avoid the potential double standard is not use the word, right? At all. But people are still going to use it. And I'm acknowledging that people use it. I understand why people use it. If a white person were to use nigga, it kind of catches me to the side like, woo, right? But if this white person is somebody who grew up in my neighborhood as a, you know, like they grew up with me in the neighborhood, and they use the word like it's culture, like you are a part of the group, inner group.
Watch this, man. I mean, this fact checker, watch this. I'm in Denver, and you know when they put 3 people in an Uber to save cash, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm in this Uber, and they picked these other 2 guys. One's, I think he was Mexican, one was white. Mm-hmm. They were like workers out in the area. So I'm sitting in the back, you know, and they start talking. And the first thing he says is, nigga, when you was at the club, I'm like, now, you know, I done already rose up already. Because these ain't two black. I don't know these dudes. But they are comfortable in front of me talking like this. So I sit back and I'm saying now, right, I'm like, now, you know, so the more we ride, the more they talking comfortably. That nigga this, that nigga that. And I said, look here, man, I don't know y'all, but I ain't comfortable with them words. Okay, it's just me. Now, I ain't trying to start no fight with nobody, but in that instant, man, it's just how comfortable they are. But it does get to me, a preacher, it does, it's just me, man. I mean, I understand you, but for me, it was just ripping me up, man. I got to be honest, if they could do that in front of a black man and be comfortable with it.
My question is, why are you giving the word so much power over your life? Like, why are you allowing something that happened to you 50 years ago to dictate who you are today? Now, what if they pulled a gun and shot you because you said something? Is it worth it?
It wouldn't worth, I agree, it wouldn't worth that. Nah, absolutely not.
So that's my point. Like, we're giving the word too much power. Now, I have some white guys that have been around me, and back in the day, Carl talked about, Old Soul talked about it. He lived up in the projects. You talking about Lindenfield? We talking about Lindenfield? Yeah. Lindenfield projects there was white guys that were blacker than me up there.
In the projects.
And they was Ace, Boone, Coon. And if we was having a conversation and they dropped the N-word while we were having a conversation,
you never had a problem with it.
I would not have thought twice about it.
And we didn't either.
Right. So the double standard that we're talking about is depending upon
who it is,
conversation, and exactly, and where the conversation is coming from.
Yes.
Because I'm in the stands as a coach, and I'm in all over the state of Pennsylvania, and I get more upset when young people disrespect the women using the dick word. You know, I get more upset than that.
Word.
Right. In front of black queens, I get more upset than with those words than I do with the word nigga. I'm just being honest. That it does nothing to me. If I feel zero.
And so interesting you say that. So we want your honesty, right? And that it goes back to the point. I like the term. I like how you say. I like your comment about the power. Why do you let why do you let that word take that power over you? And I think it goes back to my comment about what I said. The Old Soul is about being. You have to be. It's easy for us to go out and try to manage what others are saying, but we need to manage ourselves, right? And until you can truly manage you, right, emotionally, you know, if you can manage yourself emotionally, right, mentally, then those words won't have that impact on you, right? And so that's the quandary we're in, right? I like the idea of reclaiming it so others can't use it from a power perspective. But the reality of it is you don't even need to reclaim it if you already know that you're not even that, right? You know, as an individual, that's not who you are. Doesn't take away from the fact that if someone outside of our race who says it like, nigga, get your ass over here, or get down from there, nigga, right? In that way, then you know that it's being used in a derogatory way. It's still going to set you off, but at the same time, should you respond? Should you not? You know? So, is there, preacher, you said that, listen, you use the word, right? Is there any circumstances when it's not something that should be
used? I'm not using the word when I'm in the pulpit. I say ninja, but they know what I'm talking about. I work in corporate America. I have 36 people that I manage. I'm not sitting in the conference room with all these individuals using the N-word because I have common sense. So clearly, listen, it's not that I have a word let me just rephrase. I have a vast vocabulary. I cannot use the word and replace it with another word.
Yeah.
But no one's going to tell me what to say out of my mouth. I'm grown. I say what I want. And if you're offended, I apologize, but I'm not going to change who I am because someone else is offended. Because in this world, in this society that we live in, everybody's offended at everything. So,
yeah. Also,
kind of piggyback on what the preacher said. He does have a vast vocabulary, but where I come in on that is, what about those individuals, primarily youth, that don't have that vast vocabulary? okay, they accept it. They accept it because they feel as though it's part of the norm. Give you a quick story. When my son was younger and my nephews came up from down south and they were in the house and they were talking to each other and I happened to walk by and they used the word. I stopped them immediately right there. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, if there was a white person across the street and called you that name, what would you do? Well, we'd be ready to go over there and hit him, kill him. But a black person calls you that name, what do you do? They got quiet because they had to literally think about it, right? So why do I have to take a word born out of hate? Born out of hate. I'm talking about a word born out of hate. And I have to actually sit down and think who I'm using it around, or is it going to, no, listen, it doesn't require any thinking at all. Mm-hmm. Okay? It doesn't require who I'm around, because guess what? I have a vast vocabulary too. And I can sit down and think of a lot of things by choice that I can call someone or refer to someone. I can refer to someone if I love them out of something, you know, brother, homie, whatever. If it's somebody that I don't like and they're my color, there's a litany of curse words that could be used. There's a litany of other words that can be used, right? To me, it requires sitting down and thinking about not just yourself, but the person in front of you. Mm-hmm. I'm secure in myself. I don't have a problem, but I'm not going to refer to someone that means more than that name. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to let anybody young that I'm around, like I said, my son used to get on me because I used to listen to music and I would delete the stuff out, right? The curse words, the M-bombs when he was younger, right? Oh, Dad, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Now, current day, he tells me he can't sit down and listen to music unless it's bleeped out. So there's a foundation laid there. That's one person. Now he might use it on the street, but he doesn't use it in his household. But that's all I'm saying. You have to learn how to get involved in the culture and give the culture options so that they don't have to. That's not a word that should be accepted, culturally accepted. You have to give them options and say, look, you're bigger, you're smarter. You can use other words and other choices than that. That's me. That's my opinion.
Do you all think that people outside of our race should be? It's okay for them to use the word nigga, not nigger, but nigga, in an endearment way?
No.
No, Donald.
There's no term.
Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. Latin people, all Latin people, their descendants are African people. Mm-hmm. So if the word nigger was used to describe African people, and my Spanish, Puerto Rican brothers use it, I don't care. I'm not losing no sleep over it. I'm not the nigger checker. Like, you the fat checker, I got to go check them because they use the word. I got to check them. Oh, you can't use that word. But
so in the Marina Commies example of the people talking in the car, that wouldn't have bothered you, et cetera, is what you're saying, right?
Man, listen, if what's up, Spick? How you doing? You think they would like that?
No,
not at all.
Well, that's the only way you really get them to understand your point. But if you're not willing to go that far, right? If you see somebody Jewish, are you gonna call them? Remember, right? The media controls the whole narrative, right? Because when Michael Jackson wrote a song, he used the word kite to describe a Jew, right? Mm-hmm. Sony just said that if you don't take that word out, we're not going to allow that record to be played on any radio station in America, right? But NWA, Snoop Dogg, rappers, comedians, we can use TV shows, you can hear the N-word, no problem. Mm-hmm. No problem. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to certain words, you better not use that word. See,
anything Jew is going to be a problem. Anything Jew related.
But this is my issue. Right? So to me, again, what Carl, I respect the old soul's opinion. Okay, I respect the way he raised his nephews and he taught his son. Okay, but I'll tell you right now, if you come to 8054 and my boys are here, that's gonna be they 28 years old. That's all you're gonna hear. Ninja this, ninja that, ninja this, ninja that. And they're going to like, well, got it from their daddy.
To jump in on what you said a little bit about that Michael Jackson piece, there was protests, there were boycotts, and it was primarily based on the Jewish faith, right? Now, with that being said, with the NWA, with Snoop, with all the other artists that used, did we as a culture, did you see anybody out there protesting or jump up and down about it?
The NAACP.
Okay. And they banned the word, right?
Well, just again, yeah. Well, I don't know. Yeah, they tried to ban the word, but they don't have that kind of power.
New York
right?
City. New York City also. New York City, I think, also banned the word. Not that it was.
I'm sorry, fact checker, but it goes back to that conversation we had a couple weeks ago. The people in power, get to determine how a word is used, and by us, if you don't use the word, right, you're giving the word more power. That's just my opinion. Listen, and I respect each and every person's opinion. You don't use the
word, you're giving the word more power, is what you're saying.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And no matter what anyone on the podcast says or outside of us or anyone listening, please comment your thoughts. The word's not going anywhere.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Hey, hold on. Baller, what did you, do you, if someone outside the group used, use the word nigga, not nigger, but nigga, in an endearing term to each other, how would you feel about that?
I'm going to give you two examples that the only person that's not here probably didn't see it, but I'm sure he did. Sanford and Son and the Jeffersons, 1975, between 1974 and 1976, I forget the actual date of those shows, were the first black shows that used those words. And it was in comedy. So, in that being said, to a certain point in comedy, those were endearing. So it was accepted at that point in time with those two prominent shows. So, going back to your question, would I have said anything if, like I was with the Marine, faced with two men outside of my race? I think I would have been almost to sort of like the preacher. Yo, y'all gotta chill. Unless you want me to engage in this conversation and call you my Hector or something outside of. But while I'm sitting in this car, y'all gotta chill on that. You know what I'm saying?
So, that's essentially what the Marine Economy said. The preacher is saying, no, it's not a big deal.
No, it's not a big deal. But again, like I said earlier, it depends. I'm not gonna say I would be comfortable, but I'd be comfortable enough to say, y'all gotta chill on that. I'm not going to like the preacher was saying, giving it power. I don't think I'm giving it power if I'm telling you kind of like, yo, shut the fuck up. Because I don't feel as though,
So essentially what I'm hearing is you wouldn't like to hear them say it, is what I'm hearing. Nah, right. Okay.
Hey, I want to say to the preacher, but because I do appreciate his perspective. I like coming on this show because I like hearing everybody's perspectives and views. And I'm going to take something from this. I won't get that word, that power no more, brother. And I mean that sincerely. I think every time I've heard it, it goes to my heart. And I think I give it too much. I think I really do. I think I got to learn that balance. I need to learn that balance. I don't want to hear it. I don't condone it. I'll still say that. But I can't let it affect me as much as it has. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. That's what I mean. So, we together on that. But I think I can't let it just rip my insides out like it's been doing what it does to me. You know what I mean? I have to learn that balance. I have to find that even ground for me.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let me close with this. When people use the N-word around me, when they say nigga in an endearing terms, right? I got family members who use it. It don't typically bother me, right? If a white person said nigger, I of course would be bothered, right? If a white person referred to another white person as nigger, or a Spanish person refers to another Spanish person as nigga, I'd probably be caught off guard, like, damn, like wow, right? I'd be shocked, is what I'm saying, right? Because it's not something that's common from a cultural perspective outside of our culture that I didn't see as common, but it's starting to become more and more common. Yes, what I think at a minimum, what I think everyone should do is recognize the power this word has in general. Like, the word it's a powerful word. I think that should be respected. However, I also do believe that we need to be able to manage ourselves, right? Because the more we can manage our emotional selves, right, who we are as individuals, the more we control that not bothering us. To the preacher's point, I think, like, I think he doesn't even just give a shit, right? Like, he knows who he is as a whole individual, that he doesn't give a shit. You're gonna say something, preacher?
I just wanted to say that one of the things as a coach is very, very important that I'm teaching these young ladies, right? And I'm talking about, you can talk to any of the kids that have came through my program, that have graduated and moved on. And the one thing that we teach them, and I say this all the time, less emotion and more logic. Less emotion, because you know what? Our jails are full of people with emotion.
Yes.
If you were to talk to the people that's incarcerated, they're incarcerated because they didn't know how to control their emotions. If they process information more logically, less emotional, right, we would be in a completely different society.
Yeah, fine point there. So we'll close with that, brothers. Listen, listen, it's a topic. I wanted to talk about it, the N word, and I appreciate y'all taking the time. For you watching us, please let us know, your thoughts on the N word. Do you condone it? Do you use it? Do you condemn it? And don't use it, right? We'd love to just hear your feedback in general regarding the N word. You've clearly heard our perspectives on it, and they varied. Like, I mean, there's a complete variance here in how we think about the N word. But I think it's important to know that it is a word, to the preacher's point, that is never going to go away. Right? It's going to be around for a very long time, well beyond us being here on this world. So with that said, we love y'all all, brothers. I love you. And look, I think in 2 weeks, we're going to go ahead and push out Black Trivia on December, what's that, Wednesday? We're going to have Black Trivia again right before Christmas. So it'll be pushing out. And we're looking forward to you all joining us. Brothers, we out. Peace. Love y'all, man. Y'all have yourself a good one. All right.
Go Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills. Let's go Bills.
Go Niners.
Peace.
My brothers, my brothers, my brothers, my brothers, my brothers. Video podcast.